So welcome to Scrapbook Live. I'm Megan Jacks. Today is September 26th, and I have a layout for you today from what I'm calling my personal vault. It's a layout that I shared like 5 years ago, no, not quite 5 years ago, with my customers in my VIP group. And when I did this, I initially just had pictures. I used to just share pictures, and I would type in the comments under each picture on Facebook how to put together the layout. Then I realized sharing this with my customers and at the time the subscriber group, it was not working very well. We needed handouts, right, that you could print and follow along. And that's kind of how things evolved into the handouts that you see now. I take square photos. I have a template in Canva. I put everything together. So I had to go back to that original post, pull it all down, download all the photos and kind of reconstruct a handout for this. But this handout or this layout made it out to Pinterest. And so it's been floating around, and every once in a while I'll get a message from somebody asking, how do you put this layout together? And so I thought this would be a good time to share that with you. So it's a pretty easy layout. Hopefully you find it pretty versatile. I am going to put a little twist on it today, just working in some punches because we all love our punches. And so I'm going to show you what that's going to look like. I'll switch over here to my overhead camera. All right, so I am going to be using the Copper Canyon collection. I mentioned that if you caught my post this morning on my Facebook page. And I am going to be working in a border maker cartridge. And how I'm going to be doing that is where you see these longer bars of kind of a bluish gray color going all the way around. I am going to be making, instead of just cutting 1-inch strips, I'm actually going to be making some border strips using the Ancient Key Border Maker cartridge. So I'm not sure if you guys have this border maker cartridge. I hope that you do. If you didn't already have that one, it is currently on sale with Creative Memories at a steal of a price. It's one of my favorites. To be fair, I do love the geometric style BMCs, and so this is right up my alley. So I think that looks fantastic. I'm using one of the darker teal texture paper out of the Copper Canyon 2 kit, and then I am pairing it with some copper shimmer because who doesn't like a little bit of a shimmer and shine on your layouts? So that's going to be the change that I am doing. If you're following along on the cut guide, you'll cut some 1-inch strips, but I'm going to walk you through how to make the border strips because they're just a little bit different. We can't make them quite 1 inch. They're just a little bit bigger, and that's okay. In all reality, the 1 inch just allows you to get everything you need out of one sheet of paper. But if you're mixing and matching, you can go a little bit wider if you want to. You can also go a little bit narrower, just making sure that they're all the same. And I am going to be, instead of cutting out of one paper, I am punching the darker teal texture paper, and then I'm using that bronze shimmer, the copper shimmer for the behind here. I will also be using some copper shimmer to make those little corner pieces that kind of give it that faux interlocking look. So we'll go ahead and then I need some background paper. I am using probably my favorite paper out of Copper Canyon 2. I am using this kind of grungy look paper. So it's going to sit kind of like this, I think, on my layout. And for mats, my plan is to use this paper. One of the things I want to point out about using mats, because I was debating, I knew I wanted to use a lighter color. I will be honest with you, I'm not sure what photos are going to go on here. We are getting ready to go to the Grand Canyon in northern Arizona, like Grand Canyon. I think we're going to the painted, not the painted desert, the petrified forest. So I might have some good photos from that. I debated using this paper, but the challenge with this particular paper is that it has a definite border to it. It's a subtle border, but it's definitely there. Meaning when you start cutting mats and things out of it, you definitely see that it's not going to be uniform across the mat that you cut. You'll have some pieces that will have that slightly different edge to it. It's almost like they sponged on a bunch of the pattern or the color, and then they came in and wiped some of the sponged area. So it just has a little bit of a definite edge. So I decided to go with this particular paper because it doesn't have that feature to it. Pretty much when I cut a mat here, it'll have that nice uniform all the way around. There'll be some pieces, of course, where you'll see like the darker color poke through, but all in all, it's not going to have where one corner of a mat has a little bit of a different texture than the other corner. All right, so we're going to get started. You will, if you are using a two-sided paper that you can cut everything from, you will see here that I've got the cut guide. You cut a total of 6 1-inch strips, and then 4 of those strips of paper you're going to cut to 11 inches, and 2 of them you'll cut down to 10 inches. I already have 4 of my strips made. As I mentioned, I am not cutting them from a piece of paper. I am punching and then cutting. I do have to cut, but I don't just cut the strips. I've got to punch first. So I'm going to go ahead and make 2 more because I need a total of 6. So let me walk you through how I do this with the Ancient Key Border Maker cartridge. Ancient Key is a knockout style, which is great because when I punch it, it's just going to remove that Ancient Key design. It's going to leave my outside edge completely intact. It will stay attached to the paper. That allows me then to cut my strips, and so that I can get nice, even. They're roughly about 1 1/8 wide, but I can get all of them to be the same. Now, BMC, the knockout style BMCs are all a little bit different in terms of how wide you need to cut them to make it feel like your design is centered. Some other BMCs that we still have available, Ancient Key may not be on sale anymore, guys. I just thought about that because I know we have our Bats and Stars is on sale right now, but I'm not sure about Ancient Key. Anyway, this is Cyclic Circle. It is also a knockout style BMC where it just moves those. The design you see here is all it's punching from the paper. That might have a little bit different width that you punch it, or you trim it to have it feel even when you're putting it on your paper. And the same thing for Bats and Stars. So if you're trying to find the measurement, what I would suggest doing is punching on some spare paper. It could even just be some 8.5 by 11. Punch up a bill. All you're trying to do is just determine how wide that measurement is, and then write it on your punch if you need to. Use it like a thin tip Sharpie and just write a measurement on there, and you'll know that is the measurement that you cut to when you want a strip of this that is even on both sides. So here is Ancient Key. I'm going to go ahead and punch that. Now you can mix and match your BMCs as well, especially the knockout style. They work really well to mix and match. I did actually, and let me see if I can find it here real quick. I was messing around with trying to do, oh, here we go. Mixing and matching the Ancient Key and Cyclic Circles, and I liked the look. I think it's a nice pairing. However, it was getting to be a little bit too much for my layout. One of the things I like about this layout is the border that goes all the way around. Those interlocking corners, those strips are all, you know, they're just kind of subtle. They're just there. They frame in your paper. You're not, your layout, you're not trying to compete. And I wanted to go with that same concept. So I decided to just use Ancient Key, but you can see here, they do. The Ancient Key and Cyclic Circles match really well. And of course you can, you know, mix and match all you want with your various knockout style BMCs. Just play around with it. Again, using spare paper is my recommendation. So I punched one side. I'm going to go ahead and punch the other. I need 2, and this just allows me to kind of streamline one tool. I get all my BMC punching out of the way and then grab my trimmer. So now I'll come in with my trimmer and I will trim these off. And I have determined for Ancient Key that if this is kind of a crazy measurement, but what the measurement that I found is if I actually take, let me see, this edge, so this edge right here on the inside edge, you see how if I move it over, there is the 1-inch line, just peeking to the left side of it. I'm going to dial my paper back until that edge, the right edge of my punched out design, so that punched piece, this decorative hole that it punches, I want the right edge to just be at the 1-inch line. So Kimberly did correct for me that Ancient Key is currently not on sale, but Bats and Stars are. The Halloween stuff is on sale. So I apologize. I missed that. I'm always a little bit late with it. I did that to you guys too for the tab punch. Coming in a little bit late, but there we go. That's a pretty even. And I'll repeat that measurement on the next side there. And really what you're just trying to go for is consistency. Okay, so now I have a total of 6 of those pieces. And as I mentioned, showed earlier, I do have copper shimmer on the back. And I just wanted to make sure that that copper, or that the key design would pop through. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my repo tape. Now, the thing to note with Ancient Key is that it does have some pretty delicate pieces in here. These are pretty delicate, so you have to be careful when you're applying your repo adhesive. Don't go too crazy. It sometimes can pull at that design. I already have some 1-inch strips of copper shimmer cut. And I just cut those out of scrap. And I'll do the other one, and then I'll have all 6 of my strips made. And once I have those 6 strips made, I can cut them down to the size needed for the layout. So you just need 6 strips of paper. They can be, you could have chain borders, you could have whatever, kind of your heart desires. I like having something with a blunt end to it. I like that squared look. So that's the nice part about using a knockout style punch, is because it has a very square end to it. So when we turn the corner, or that illusion of turning the corner in that interlock design it's going to work out fine. All right, so there we go. Now I do need to cut these I need to make 4 of them be 11 inches and 2 of them be 10 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off 1 inch. Now 1 inch should theoretically be my, like right between my design here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to default. It's okay if it's a little big, because when I put it on my page, you can actually see that when I put it on my page, I'll be able to adjust how things sit. So I'll be able to move it if I need to, and just trim off the edges. So I'm going to trim off the 1 inch. And I'm going to trim mine a little shy of 1 inch. I'd rather have extra edge on that key side. I want to make sure I have a nice border there. So I'm just going slightly under 1 inch. And I need to do this to 4 of them. And I guess I should just make sure I'm not grabbing. I don't want to grab the same one twice and accidentally cut off a 2nd inch, though. Well, or it would be fine. I'd make it work. Okay, there's my 4 that are cut to 11 inches. So I see Donna asking why not to put adhesive on the copper shimmer instead. And the reason you put your adhesive on the border, the backside of the border, is because then when you flip it over, you're not having to go in and rub out where the adhesive is. It should all be just stuck to the paper that sticks down. So that's kind of a rule of thumb when you're using those decorative punches. As you use the repo adhesive, it just sticks to the border, the detailed intricate border, and then you can back it with the paper that you want. So you just have to be careful. It works fine. I didn't have any problems, but just before you go crazy with it, just note with Ancient Key, you definitely need to be a little bit careful. So now I need to go ahead and trim these last 2 down so they're 10 inches. I'm going to go ahead and again make it just shy of 10 inches because I want to make sure I have a nice, a little wider than normal border there. And I'll make adjustments if I need to once I get it figured out here, or ready to put on my paper. Okay. So now I've got all my strips made. Now I need to make those little corner pieces. And I do show you in the guide, you can cut a 6x6 square. So I'm going to show you that method first, and then I'm going to show you an alternative method that might work. If you have a 6x6 square, go ahead and follow along. If you're like, Megan, I don't have a 6x6 square because you just told me to cut bigger than 1-inch pieces, and all I have left is a piece this size, and I want to use the reverse, just like the handout does. I will show you how to cut pieces out of something smaller than 6x6, but I'm going to show you the 6x6 method first. All right. All right, so I do need to trim this to 6 inches. So I'm going to cut myself a 6x6 piece. Rotate and cut again at 6 inches. And then we need to cut it like a frame. We're going to do a 1-inch frame, so we're cutting a 4x4 square out of the middle. So I'm going to go and rotate my paper to the side, or my whole trimmer to the side. And we've done this a lot. If you're new, first of all, if you are new, go ahead and shout out in the comments that you are. But if you are newer to this, my style is to turn it horizontal. We're going to go ahead, put our trimmer down, and then we can see where that white line is. I'm going to put the white line on 1. I'm going to cut to 5. And I'm going to repeat that on all 4 sides. The edge of my paper is marked at the 1-inch line below the trimmer, the cut line. And that's, it should be universal for your trimmer. Depends on the trimmer that you're using. If you've never done it before, experiment. Do not cut your fancy paper first. But I'm cutting out that 1-inch. I'm cutting out a 4x4 square out of the middle. That will give me a 1-inch frame. That 1-inch frame will then cut into the 4 corner pieces that we need for the layout. So there we go. Once you have your square piece here, you can see in the guide, I have some additional cut lines. We're then going to cut this piece in half. It's a 6x6 square, so I'm going to line it up at 3 inches. And just cut and get those corner pieces. One of the reasons to cut this all from the same paper is that it just makes it easier. It gives that illusion that everything going the same direction. If you have a very directional print, it does make it makes it look like it's all one piece. And that's really what we want. It's for this illusion to work, is we want it to look like it's all one piece. Now, using cardstock means it doesn't matter, but you'll see when I go ahead and I'm cutting in this next piece, I need to, if I were just to cut strips and put my strips together, I would have some pieces going one direction and some pieces going in opposite direction, and it would not necessarily look like, it would just look maybe a little bit different. I probably should have told you at the beginning of the session where I talk these. If you're using a designer paper for this, you want a designer paper that doesn't have a lot of directionality to it, because some of your strips go horizontal and a couple of your strips go vertical. So just keep that in mind when you're choosing your paper. That should have been like a really big note at the beginning of the session, but I forgot to mention that. So I've got my pieces, and these will be the pieces that I'm going to use. I'm going to use the copper shimmer for mine, but I'm going to show you when you have a smaller piece, you can't do 6 inches. What you can do is cut 3x3 squares. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this at 3 inches. And then I'm going to cut 3x3 inch squares. And once I have those 3x3 squares, what I'll be able to do is I'm going to notch out in one of the corners. I'm going to cut, it's basically I'm going to cut a 2-inch square out of one of the corners and give myself that same corner piece. So I will go ahead, I'm going to do this, let's see, I'm going to bring it down so it's 1 inch below the cut line again. The right here, I'm at 1 inch below my cut line. I'm going to close my trimmer arm and I'm going to line up my white line at 2 inches. And I'll cut to the right. So see, I can cut. Now I need to do the same thing. I got to keep this as and I basically want, I've moved it to the side, so I want to cut an L. I want to cut here. So I'm going to put my paper down at 1 inch. This time I have to line it up at 1 inch and cut to the left all the way off the paper. And there I have my corner bracket. And my pattern stays consistent all the way through my bracket. So I'll show that again. I'm going to line up my paper. I'm going to use, because I want this to kind of mimic each other, I think, with the angles, I'm going to pay attention to my directionality. The first one, if I'm going to make my cut from 2 inches all the way to the right, I need to rotate my paper. Use the previous one you cut to help you with that. So here I'm going to line up at 2 inches and cut all the way to the right. Rotate it to the left 90 degrees, and I'm going to cut starting at 1 inch and pull to the left or push to the left. And that way you can see they are the same. This is going to depend on your paper if you need to worry about that. I've got a definite directionality with that diagonal. I want to make sure that they look the same. And I would then repeat that on my other pieces if I needed those corner pieces. But I've already got all 4 that I need for my layout, so I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so now it's time to start putting the base page together. This lighter aqua is going to be my mat, so I'm going to get that out of the way. I'm going to dry fit. Just make sure I like my brackets. I mean, I do have an option. I think this is kind of dark. I don't think you'll really notice it up in the corner. It really has a tendency to blend in. And of course, if I flip it over, it's the same thing that I already have. So I'm going to probably stick with my copper. So on my handout, I tell you, you're going to put the first piece that's going to go on is going to be the, oh my goodness, the 10-inch piece. Now you have some flexibility here with how this goes together. You'll see how things kind of overlap a little bit. This next piece that goes on is going to be the square pieces. So I'm going to see how this sits in here. I'm just dry fitting. I'm just making sure I like how everything looks. And then what will happen is across the top, I'll take those 11-inch pieces and that'll cover up. Now, this is where I've got a little bit of, I've got to do a little bit of figuring out. Because my pieces are a little bit wider, and that's something to consider that you do have to take in mind is if you go too wide here, what's happening over here is you're a little bit wider. So I would say if you made a lot of adjustments and you're watching this later, I probably should always tell people to watch the video all the way through because I discover things as I'm putting them together that I need to tell you about. I would say you probably don't cut your 10-inch pieces because those are pretty standard, but don't cut your 11-inch pieces just so you can see. But here you're starting to see how that takes shape. It's starting to look pretty good. I like that copper in there. So I'm going to go with that. I think what I'm actually going to do is I want these to stand out. These top ones here to stand out as compared to having this one pop through under. So I'm actually going to take my scissors and I'm going to go ahead and cut off. I can just cut off one. Because my 11-inch piece is going to provide that, the corner here. It's going to provide the nice spot that pops through. So let me go ahead and put these on. Let's scoot this over just a little bit. Line up your base paper on your cutting mat so it's nice and straight because you're going to use that. And then this is going to sit in here. I'm going to use some repo adhesive just in case I need to make some adjustments. I'm going to grab a T-square. It should be, we want the left edge of this piece of paper to be 1 inch from the outside edge. And it should be centered. So this is normally be 1 inch from the top. I cut some of mine off, so I'm just going to be centering it as best I can. Grab my, I actually need to bring one of them down at 1 inch. We'll see. Because what I'm looking for is to make sure I have this whole pattern. You can see here when I put these in place, I want to make sure between here and here, I have whole keys. So I'm actually going to come in, I think that'll be fine. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put on my adhesive on my corner piece. And this just lines up at 3 inches. I do agree. It would be nice if we had a slightly longer or wider T-square. It would be really great if Creative Memories would make a T-square that works perfectly with our mat. I've sent in that suggestion, I believe, so you guys can always send that suggestion in as well. There we go. That's going to sit in there. It's not, it looks pretty good. I was going to say it's not entirely perfect. I can see the design was really meant to go with a 12 inch or the 1 inch pieces. But if you're going a little bit larger, like I did, my pieces are a little bit more like 1 1/8. It just takes a little bit of adjustment. But there we go. That's what it looks like. So let me go ahead. I'm going to make the other side really quick, put that together so we have the whole full effect of what it looks like. I'm going to cut off. No, I can't remember what I cut off. Let me see here. Well, that's not the one I want to cut, that's for certain. I'm glad I double checked. That would have been a disaster. I need this one to sit in there between. It is my 10 inch. Just doing a little bit of reconfiguring. If you got your 10 inch piece, you just put it on just like regular if you haven't punched anything. Because I've punched, I just want to trim things down a little bit. Well, I should be good. Lining up my paper on my cutting mat again, just like I did before. And I'll grab my T-square, put some adhesive on the back side, and I'm going to go ahead and line this up. I want, oh, love that when my tools move my paper. That should work. Grab my corner pieces and double check. Just wanting to make sure I have a nice even piece there, and that looks good. I'm going to put one up here in the corner, this upper corner. And then I'm going to make an adjustment down here. I'm going to cut this extra piece off. I don't need it. It's going to be covered up. That way I don't have to worry about it not lining up properly. And then I'll go ahead and put these pieces on. I'm glad I did cut these a little short. I definitely need a little bit more of that length. Or so I cut them a little long. Maybe that's the way. When I cut off, I didn't cut quite 2 inches off. I took a little bit less than 2 inches. And that was a good decision because it just gives me, I needed a little extra length to cover. Remember, this piece is a little wider than 1 inch. I needed that little extra length to cover the piece there. So let's see. I didn't do a very good job putting this other piece on. It's a little crooked. There, that's better. And if you have any of those little keys that pop up, a little bit of repo adhesive does wonders to get them pushed in. So there we go. Oh, Kimberly, thank you so much. Thank you so much for putting in those product suggestion email address for people to send in your product suggestion. I think that would be a great, great tool for them to bring us. So here we go. We have our interlocking corners with our ancient key border punch, and that looks pretty fantastic. I can tell I didn't put this piece on straight either. So I'll move that down just a little bit. They don't have to line up perfectly. They will have the jeeping in between. Now, going on to some of the other details of this layout, because really this is your base layout. Everything you do beyond this is kind of to your discretion in terms of how your photos are going to fit on here best. The layout that I give you, it defaults a little bit more to vertical images. So if you have horizontal ones, you might need to make some adjustments. But I'm just going to take a peek here and make some decisions. Like, do I want to go with, I'm not sure if I'm feeling the lighter aqua. My other option is to come in maybe with the white. It's kind of a grayish white. Imagine like photos sitting in here. I think the reality for me is going to be that I'm just not sure, because I'm not sure what pictures I'm going to have to go with this. So with that in mind, I think what I will do is I will come in with some, let me see here. I might just put in, these are Lagoon Shimmer. I already had them cut from another project. I think I have a piece, or I could use copper. I debated using copper shimmer in here, but I think for our illustration purposes, I will go ahead and just use some of the, I feel like copper is just too much. Like, it needs to have more than copper. I'll have some copper accents in the middle because I'll show you how to do some of those. I think I'm just going to cut some Lagoon Shimmer. So I've got 3 Lagoon Shimmer 4x6s, and I think on the layout that I show you, there's then 3 4x4s. So let me cut a strip or cut some 4x4s out of the Lagoon Shimmer. And this just allows me to save my designer paper. I might, when I do my actual photos, I might need to go ahead and add those or cut out a piece of cards or the designer paper that works well. But once I have my photos, I'll know more. So I'm just looking for placeholders besides, boring colors. All right. So I've got one 4x6 over here, and then I come in with a couple of 4x6s here, and they do cover up. Now there is a space in here, and I show you, I think I cut down, I make like a little journal box type situation. Or actually, no, I used a mat out. This was done with Natural Disposition, which was from a few years ago. It must have come out in like early 2020 or even late 2019. But just showing you how this can go. And then this piece would still sit here even across. Now we've got some pieces, remember out of our copper shimmer, I cut that square out of the middle, or you just have scraps of whatever, and you can start putting those in. So I show having like a little journal box, and the little journal box I did is basically cut whatever you want, and then you add a piece of the journal paper to it. So I think my journal boxes, they look to be maybe, they're not much more, they're around an inch. It's meant for just a couple of lines of journaling. I think I did bring this down a little bit, and then I can put that in up here, maybe would overlap the photo a little bit. So that can be an option. And I think I did another one in the bottom. I'm doing these about 1.25 inches. And again, that's meant to just have a couple of lines of journaling. If you need something more extensive, you can adjust it as needed. And of course, I can dig into my Copper Canyon stickers. I can go to my map pack and figure out if there's something here I want to do. I don't have the map pack in here with me. I'm a little bit of a mess, but I've got some options to look at. So like this capturing life, depending on what I've got going on, would go really well there as well. I just don't know. I'm not going to worry about putting anything here permanent until I know which photos that I'm going to use. But there's some good ones in here that would work for in doing something in this section. I might take a peek at the mats and see if there's a title mat in there that would work. So I think that's pretty much how it goes together. You just do your photos on there the way that you want, but the goal is to get that interlocking effect to it. I think it's really nice. It's kind of contrasty on the video, but it looks pretty good in person. I'm kind of excited to be able to get some photos to go with this. Granted, the photos we're going to be going to the Grand Canyon and to the Petrified National Forest. And so those, I'm sure I will have a lot of horizontal photos. So I'll have to try to figure out the best way to make some adjustments here to get more horizontal photos on there, or, make sure that I'm doing some pictures that are the vertical. There are plenty of things in both places that you can do vertical photos. I just feel like when I am at a place like the Grand Canyon or like Petrified National Forest, it's all about like the landscape. And there's a reason that horizontal photos are called landscape photos, because we want to show off the landscape. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Next week, somebody had messaged me a layout that from the Creative Memories blog that they wanted to see about doing a scrapbook live. So I think we're going to do one. That was a suggestion from one of the viewers, the followers, to do that. You guys are always welcome to send me things from the blog that you'd like to maybe see done. It's no promise that I will do it. The one that was sent to me, I actually have had on my list for a while. I just haven't done it. So that's why it worked out really well, because it meshed with my own desire to want to put together layout. I'll admit there's some layouts on the blog that just don't spark my interest as much. And sometimes it ebbs and flows on what tools we have available that I want to show how, oh my gosh, like this new tool that just came out would work perfect with this blog post from 3 years ago. And you can just show how things can be switched around. So that's kind of what I got going there. In Creative Memories news, we have some fun things coming on. Well, first of all, Simple Page Kit Bundle number 4 is now available on the website. So you can go ahead and go grab that if you did not already. And of course, check out the Halloween promo where there's some discounted products. And then you can, depending, You spend, I think, $75 in the Halloween zone or the Halloween department, you can get a free product or a free little gift bundle. And on Monday, they have told us, I think they've told us, I've heard that we're going to be, the new photo printing process will be starting on Monday. So that's very exciting. If you have never used Creative Memories photo printing before, this is going to be a great time to try it. It is a completely new, they're not going to be doing it in-house. They have outsourced it. They've outsourced it to, from what I'm hearing, it's going to be a nice improvement to, so that's what I've heard. And I've got my photos all ready to go. I'm going to order some on Monday. I'll be able to give you guys a full feedback. So it's very exciting to see how that would work, because then you can get your photos and your scrapbook supplies all in one box. That's pretty exciting. I think that's all I've got for you guys. So we're just kind of grooving along. September's almost done. Hard to believe. We're heading into October. Very exciting October. It's Creative Memories, what they celebrate their birthday month. It is Power Hour birthday month. And I may also have a birthday in October. So I like cake all month long, right? I'm all about the cake. All about the cake. All right, everybody, take care. I will see you all next week. If I don't see you in between, I appreciate you guys watching. And yeah, send me some ideas. All right, see you soon.